So I'm driving down Sunset Boulevard this morning, feeling tired, running on fumes, and then suddenly, boom, the Bee Gees come on and the Tony Manero on me pops, and I am jamming and so ready for today's lunch. Because today we are having lunch with Chelsea Handler, and she is a force. She is an author. She is a comedian. She has a point of view. She's not afraid to share it. So today we are going to have a great lunch at the Sunset Tower Bar, one of my favorites, as you know by now, and I hope you enjoy. Uh-oh, I see a blonde beauty. Woo! The party is coming. Chelsea Handler.
Hi, cutie.
Gorgeous. Chelsea, of course, just exudes joy when she walks in the room. She's wearing an amazing navy jumpsuit and looks absolutely gorgeous.
What's up,
Hi. I'm so psyched to be sitting with you.
Oh, you smell delicious.
I do. Thank
you.
Chelsea's a regular here at the Tower Bar, and everyone is so happy to see her. And if you work in the restaurant biz, she is not only the type of celebrity you want, she's just the type of customer you want.
Cheers. Cheers.
Iced tea.
Iced tea.
She's not fussy. She's not precious. She's super nice, and she just brightens up the joint. You know, I was looking at Eric's mullet. Eric's our server here today.
Yeah.
He has
very
a mullet. Handsome, and he has a mullet.
For those of you who can't see this podcast, because it's a podcast.
Mm-hmm. And he's from Wisconsin, so we were talking about
Wisconsin waterfall.
The return of the mullets.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know that's happening?
Yeah, I do. I've seen it. And he was the first one who told me about it last week when I was
I'm sorry,
here.
I think I single-handedly brought it back.
Oh, you do?
I've had it for 5 years.
That's a statement.
That's how I feel about jumpsuits.
Right.
I just didn't want to say that. I didn't want to toot my own horn.
So pull up a chair. Today is bound to get a little rowdy. I'm Bruce Bozzi, and this is my podcast, Table for Two.
Hi, Bruce Bozzi.
This is a really exciting day here to everyone who's on the other side of this mic, because I'm sitting with, you look fucking gorgeous, Chelsea Handler.
Thank you.
Hi. You're in this navy, I love it, jumpsuit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who doesn't love a jumpsuit?
Yeah, well, that's like a female comedian's uniform these days. We're all wearing them for some reason.
Really?
I mean, I've been wearing a jumpsuit on stage for about 2 to 4 years now. It's kind of turned into my outfit.
I wore one recently last weekend that I bought at American, what's it on La Brea, that vintage store, American.
Oh, yeah. Good American? No, that's Khloe Kardashian's company.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the one.
Yeah, I think a Good American, and it just zips up. And you can go commando. Are you commando in this?
No. I always wear underwear, Bruce. Always. Yeah, I do not like that. I like something underneath my area to just make sure that we're covered on all bases.
Totally understand.
But I have had to pee outside wearing a jumpsuit at a music festival. And when you take it down, you really are more vulnerable than any other situation where you pee outside, because then your breasts are out. I mean, hopefully you're wearing a bra. And if you're me, you have to wear a bra because my breasts are so big. But you have to, I've definitely had to you take it down and you're like, well, this isn't really good at all for this. I mean, it's a good look and I like it. And it's like, it's got a utility feel. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
I don't like any frills or bullshit anyway. So this is kind of the perfect outfit for me.
So we are sitting here at the Sunset Tower. We both love this restaurant. And it's a big day for the woman I'm sitting with. There was an announcement today. You are going to host...
Yes, the Critics' Choice Awards in January.
How did that come about?
I don't remember. I think my publicist called and said, would you like to do this? And I said, absolutely. That sounds like fun. You know what it was? I hosted Jimmy Kimmel 2 months ago, and I hadn't done that in a while. I guest hosted for a week and I was like, oh, I like this. Being able to comment politically, culturally, societally on everything that's going on.
Right.
And right now, obviously, there's such a dearth of women doing that in that space. I was like, oh, yeah, let's get this going again. I'd like to get back into that world. Right. I'd like to get back into being a public, daily commentator on the world's affairs and in a fun and less gross way than I think, the last kind of 5 years have brought out in a lot of people, myself included, after Donald Trump was elected, I went off the rails and then I had to really get my act together and figure out how I want to contribute in a more meaningful way. And, and I had taken a long break from doing stand-up. So I started doing that a couple of years ago. And now with the talk shows and everything that's happening, it's now I feel that kind of motivation again.
So that'll be a platform to do that. And, you do it on your, like, I love your TikToks, and you do call people out, your Instagrams, like your stories. On a lesser serious note, when you did one where somebody had no shoes on an airplane.
Yeah, that's pretty disgusting.
It's gross.
It's actually kind of a epidemic, I would say.
I agree.
Or a pandemic. Epidemic? No, it's a global issue, actually. I'm like, epidemic, what's that? Panhandle? Yeah, people are flying. You should see my DMs. They were flooded. I was on a plane, and I just was so disgusted by this man who was on, like, across the aisle with his feet on the TV screen.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe what was happening.
Right.
And I feel like after, like, COVID was brought upon a time where everyone became more hygienic and more mindful. And now there's like this reverberation where it's like, no, we didn't mean any of that.
Right.
Now you get on a plane and you look down, like, over your armrest to the side and see what's like the crevice, what is stuffed in there. You're like, what the hell is happening?
It's like people are animals.
Yeah.
It's like they've been let out. I JetBlued across the country the other day, and I just looked down. This guy has his flip-flops on, his big feet hanging out.
I'm so sick of flip-flops. I'm so sick of flip-flops. They're not even a shoe. They're just like wearing rubber stuck to your feet. It's like wearing a maxi shield on your foot.
It's true.
Anyway, I got inundated with other foot photos from airplanes because people were like, oh my God. And so people start taking photos of all these people get up to go to the bathroom in their bare feet, walk down the aisle and go into that disgusting bathroom and then come back around. It's like, who told you that was all right to do? There's urine everywhere.
We have all been told the amount of germs that, if you put that, like, black light on all over the tray. We're about to have lunch. This is a disgusting pre.
That's okay. Actually, this is a great way to get my appetite stirred up.
How do you remember us meeting?
Was it at an Oscar party?
Definitely was at an Oscar party, and it was always at Jennifer Aniston's house.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so
yeah.
we're
That
at
makes
Jennifer's
sense.
house, right? So my question is, when we go, because you look amazing, you are clearly in great shape. One of the reasons we go is when she has these sort of curated speakers that are talking about anti-aging or longevity. And I don't even know if the anti-aging is the correct word. Are you able to understand any of that? I feel like I need a PhD in that room.
Well, I mean, when you're a woman, you kind of get one, especially if you live in Los Angeles. So I do understand it, but like half this anti-aging stuff I take, I have no idea what it is or what it does.
So like, what is your basic day-to-day in regard to keeping Chelsea Handler looking exactly like I see today?
Well, I would thank you. I would say my day-to-day regimen would be I wake up every morning, I meditate, I work out, I take my NAD, my NAD. I don't want to leave that out. I definitely take that every day. Okay. I inject it every day.
Right. Now, to the listener, I've done NAD as well. Drip.
Yeah.
And that's very hard for me to explain.
Yeah.
How do you explain NAD?
Well, hopefully I won't do it a disservice. It's an anti-aging like molecule, cellular molecule that helps. Well, it's not a cellular, but it's a molecule that helps kind of stagnate your aging and in some cases even reverse it. I think those drips are probably more powerful than the daily injections because you can only do like 15 units.
Yeah.
And but anyway, it's anti-aging. It makes your hair come in.
Cellular
It makes your
rejuvenation.
skin more luminous. It makes your muscles recover more quickly. Then there's another peptide I take, a BPC.
Okay.
I eat really healthy. I'm like, sometimes I go off, but not really. I mean, I'm too old for that shit, so I don't really do that.
Right.
I drink a lot less than I used to. I ingest a lot of cannabis these days rather than alcohol. I mean, I still drink, but I don't like to be, it's not a cute look at a certain age in the same way. You can't get away with it.
Right. It affects your body differently, the whole thing.
And I just don't like feeling foggy.
Right.
I'm writing a new book right now. So like mentally clarity is like important. And I'm, at an age, I'm 47, where I understand what works for me and what doesn't work for me. I was never into working out when I was in my 20s. I just was like, oh, it's so annoying. Like I would look at thin people and be like, why are they even working out? Like they've already made it. You know what I mean? They're already thin. And mine was constant, like a battle. Like, oh, I've just got to get thin. I've got to get thin. Now that I am thin, I'm like, enjoy being thin, asshole. This is what you wanted. Like what? And then stop. Don't get carried away with your thinness.
It sounds like you and I are the same thing, which is consistency and moderation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Booze was something I had to sort of deal with too. I mean, I like to drink. I have a wooden leg, basically.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So,
I would say I have a wooden leg as well, but you still drink.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay,
Yeah,
good. 'Cause
I do.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than finding out somebody's sober halfway through lunch. It's such a bummer. And you're like, oh, God, you
Right.
too?
You mean, so if you were dating somebody?
Oh,
and
no.
Right.
No,
It's a deal breaker?
I think so.
What are the deal breakers, okay, with you dating somebody?
Airmail's belts would be a big deal breaker. That's something I can't get past. I'm a
Okay.
straight man.
Right. A gay guy could get away with
Yeah,
that.
probably.
Yeah,
Gay
right.
guys can get away with anything in my book.
Right.
But straight men have a long road to hoe.
Right.
What else is a deal breaker? Somebody who's like not open to therapy is a deal breaker. You know, somebody who has not done any self-examination, I wouldn't be turned on by that. Sure. Or is it like against pursuing that? You know what I mean? I'm not down with that because that's just like not evolved in my opinion.
It's closed off.
What else is a deal breaker? I mean, I guess, you know, intolerance of other people. Like, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, so you're obviously very opinionated. You're a very direct human being. I completely appreciate that. Has that always been Chelsea Handler? Were you born with this voice, with this strength?
Yeah, I've been like this since I was a little girl. I mean,
Really?
I don't know. That's, you know, you're born with some personality and mine was in your face. Like, I mean, I was the youngest of 6 kids and I just came out like demanding shit from my parents. Right. I asked my dad when I was 4, like if we had a dowry for me when I got married. And he was like, "A what?" He's like, where did you learn that word? I'm like, don't worry about it. Do we have any money saved for my wedding? What's the game plan here? And do you guys have a savings account? My parents were just like a hot mess. And I knew that from a very early age. I had to get the hell out of Dodge. I was 11 looking through the want ads to find myself my own apartment because I was trying to convince my parents it would be better off if I lived alone.
Get out.
Oh, yeah. I was a real piece of work.
Welcome back to Table for Two, where I'm chatting with the amazing Chelsea Handler. As we dive into story time, I almost forget that we are in fact here for lunch. What are we eating today?
I don't know. What are we eating? I wasn't planning on eating.
Chelsea
so let me
didn't
think.
realize the Table for Two.
I'm sorry, I didn't really look at my calendar. I saw Bruce Bozzi. I'm like, I gotta skedaddle.
Woo!
I gotta get to Tower Bar.
I think I'm gonna just do a simple chopped salad.
I think I'll take. Can I get a half dozen oysters?
Love it.
Unfortunately, we don't have
God
them
damn it, Eric!
No!
What the
Right?
fuck?
He's gonna beat me up now.
All right, I'll take a shrimp cocktail.
Damn it.
That's so Eric. I went to LA when I was 19. I tried to go to college for like a semester after high school, which was at community college in New Jersey. And I studied, ironically, Russian history. I don't know what I was thinking or talking about. I was like filling a box of time because I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I'm not going to go to college really, but we thought maybe I should start because I was 18 and graduated from high school. And I think I just stayed in Morristown because I was dating this guy who lived in Morristown. And so that was like probably the real reason I stayed was because he was really hot.
Beautiful.
And
Morristown's beautiful.
yeah, but we weren't, that wasn't why I stayed, for the beauty of Morristown.
No.
Then we broke up and I was like, what am I doing in New Jersey? I don't want to be here. I always wanted to move to Los Angeles. I had an aunt and uncle who lived in Bel Air. The first time I had come to Los Angeles, I was like 10 years old, and we came to visit my aunt and my mom's sister, and we got on an airplane, and it was the first time I had flown. I was like 10, and we walked past the first class section, and I was like, whoa, who are these people? Like, this looks like my group. And my mom was like, no, honey, we have 6 children. Like, we're never flying first class. This is a different section of the plane. And I was like, well, I don't know about that. Like, I feel like I belong there. So we went back, and then 2 years later, I had my second plane trip, but I had become a babysitter in between 10 and 12, and I saved up my money, and I purchased my own first class ticket from a neighbor down the street who was my friend's mom, who happened to be a travel agent. Okay. And then the next flight we took was as a family with my mom, and I had 2 brothers with me who were all older. I'm the youngest. We get on the plane, and it was my grandfather's funeral. He had died, and we're flying to California, and 2A was my seat, and I fucking plopped down, and I was like, hey, I will see you guys at the end of the flight. And my mom was like, what are you doing? Chelsea, get up. I'm like, this is my ticket. I purchased it. And my older brother's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? He's like, you have to give that seat to mom. I'm like, no, I don't. I purchased this. This is my earned money. Like, a mom can sit in the back of the plane where that's fine with her. This is where I belong.
That is maybe one of the best stories I've ever heard.
Well, let's not get carried away.
No, serious. That you had that like fortitude to do that, to say like, okay, next trip, I'm buying my own ticket.
I was serious. I was so serious about being comfortable. Like, my family life, it was fine. We were, middle class in New Jersey, very Jewish and Italian like town, Livingston. And everyone had, was well taken care of in our neighborhood. Right. But our family, in contrast to the other families, because my father was a used car dealer and because there were used cars strewn all over our driveway, looked like Sanford and Son of our neighborhood. So I was always embarrassed. And, and growing up, you become materialistic if that's what you're around. You're like, fuck, this is ridiculous. Like, I would have people drop me off 3 doors down from my parents because I didn't want them to see my parents' driveway. Yeah, I was very worried about other people's opinions, and right from an early age I was like, this isn't going to cut it for me. Like, I need a little bit more. And then I moved out to LA really when I was 19 years old. I was going to drive across country because my dad gave me one of his jalopies to take across country. It was an Audi Quattro.
Okay. And
my brother was like, I don't know if you should be driving cross country by yourself. And I was like, oh, it's fine. Who gives a shit? Like, I'll be fine. No one's going to fuck with me. And he's like, I met this bartender the other night. He's driving cross country too. Why don't you guys drive together? And I was like, well, okay. But my brother literally met the guy the other night.
I'm like, my mouth is open. Okay.
So I picked this guy up.
This is
1994.
94. Okay.
And I picked the guy up. We get in the car and he's like, let's go to Harlem. I want to get some cocaine. And this was before I had ever experimented with cocaine. Right. And I wasn't about to with this guy. I was still like a little fresh. And I was like, all right. I had no judgment about it. I was like, all right, cocaine, what? I had no interest of mine, but I was like, okay, sure, let's go get it. He comes, this guy bought so much cocaine. It was just this humongous bag is all I remember. It was like something out of a drug cartel. And he starts doing it as I'm driving. He just starts snorting cocaine. And I'm like, and he doesn't stop talking. This guy will not shut the fuck up. And I'm already like, okay, if this part I can't handle, like I can't handle the incessant chatting. Right. And he had maps laid out.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it's just like as you were leaving Harlem to go across country.
Yeah, we were leaving.
He's got the bag of Coke and he's,
So then we stop somewhere. We get a hotel room. We get a hotel room with 2 beds. We check in. He has maps strewn everywhere across and talking about this route and that route. And then he's putting up like little like flashcards on the wall. And I was like looking at this guy going, oh my God, this guy's a mess. I can't be around him. Right. So in the morning I woke up. Right. He had been up all night, of course. Right. He was staring straight at me with his pupils completely dilated. And I just was like, no. So I said, give me a minute. And I said, I'll be right back. I just want to, and I grabbed my suitcase and I went outside to the car. I took his stuff out of my car, left it on the parking lot floor, and pulled away and drove across country by myself.
Good for you.
And then 2.5 days later, I'm in Amarillo, Texas. Okay. And I get pulled over by a state trooper.
Oh, no.
And he has a guard dog and tells me to get out of the car. And the dog is going through my car, going nuts, going crazy. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get arrested for residue or cocaine. Residue. And luckily he didn't find anything, but there was just, you could, I'm sure he picked up the scent. And I remember standing on the side of the highway with my leg shaking. And I just thought, this is it. I'm going to go to prison now for the rest of my life.
Wow. That's just breathe in that story. That is a good, crazy story.
And then I called my family. They were on Martha's Vineyard at our summer house. My brother picked up and I said, let me talk to mom and dad. And he goes, no, they don't know that you're driving with that guy across country. And I don't think you should tell them until you get there. They're not going to like that. And I was like, first of all, that guy I left in Maryland, okay? So don't even worry. I'm not with that guy anymore, you idiot. And don't ever set me up with anybody you met at a bar.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
All those stories, were they the inspirations for all your books?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my books are, always in my books, it's about my family because I'm very tight with my brothers and sisters. My parents have both passed away. And I mean, that's where you get your kind of cynicism and sarcasm, especially being Jewish and growing up in Livingston, New Jersey. It's just kind of like our family was very, like, everything is sardonic and we're all just kind of, that old school sense of humor where you're like, even when it's a good moment, you're like, well, this is fun. It's not, nothing's fun really.
Welcome back to the table. I'm in an amazing conversation with Chelsea Handler. The food hasn't even arrived yet, and the stories are so juicy. It's easy to get caught up in a personality as big as Chelsea's.
Oh, wow.
Let's tell everyone what just happened.
I know.
Eric,
No,
thank
it's
you.
You're very welcome.
Eric, thank you.
So Eric delivered not only the shrimp cocktail, but the oysters. Where did you get them?
Oh my
We're down the
God.
ocean real quick.
See, a table for two with Bruce.
Yeah.
Shit happens.
Oh my God.
Dreams
I
come
love
true.
it. Are we allowed to eat or how do we
Yes.
do the eating?
No,
if
we
we're-
eat it. Well, you bring up something that I was going to talk about a little later, which is really your political activism. Because one of the things that you do is you visit college campuses and you talk to people and you want to get back on a platform. What is the vibe on the campuses with everything at stake going into the midterms in 2024, women's rights, gay rights? What's Chelsea's voice going to be saying?
Well, I think during the last 4 years, like I realized, or between 2016 and 2020, I mean, I was just so, I couldn't believe it, And I realized, use your voice more judiciously. Sometimes I just can rant and rave, and then I'm just speaking to my own audience and people who agree with me anyway. And the real kind of delicacy or talent would be to kind of step in timely moments instead of beating the same drum all the time. You know what I mean? Right. I think, when you argue the same point all the time, it kind of diminishes the argument.
Right.
So applying that to my activism has been, better because it doesn't keep my blood pressure at such a high level. It allows me room to think and be thoughtful about what I'm saying and contributing. But I'm definitely not like, screaming from the rooftops the way I used to, because I don't think it was reaching anybody new or different.
Right.
And I feel like effectively, stand-up is such a great tool. Like I've been on this tour for a year, which has also kept me very busy, but it's given me like a way to actually reach people. Women are my audience, gay men and women and young girls like are always at my shows. And they invariably or inevitably will drag some straight man with them, And so if I can get my point across in that forum in a way that's comedic and funny, it's much more digestible than, screaming at somebody.
Sure.
So that's a lesson that I learned in, the last few years. And so I just think about that whenever I'm doing anything, how to bring people in rather than turning them away or making them feel shameful about their decisions, trying to have a better understanding of what anybody's motivation is to begin with. Obviously there are certain people that can't be reasoned with. And then there are certain people that are on the fence, and like those are the people.
Okay, so let's talk about Vaccinated and Horny tour. What was the inspiration for this tour?
I think, when everything started opening back up, I just felt like as a comedian, I had something to offer people in terms of wanting to bring everybody out of COVID and wanting to put together people in a room for the first time to remind them about togetherness. Right. For some people, it was their very first time back out. And for me, I thought I felt a sense of responsibility, like, I can make people laugh and I can talk about all the stuff that I did during COVID, which was ridiculous. And the fact that my family invaded my house and I had to put my house on the market to get fucking rid of my family. That
story, so, okay.
I mean, I'm basically I'm living in a rental in Beverly Hills in the mecca of plastic surgery where I drive around the corner and I can't tell if somebody's 30 or 60 because everyone's got the same
face.
Exact face.
Right, same face.
And I'm like, what is this? This is like one of those, it's like a Truman Show episode of a different nature. But anyway, I'm building a house in Brentwood. I bought a house in Brentwood because of my sister. I blame her because I needed to downsize to send my family a very clear message that just because I had 4 extra bedrooms does not mean I wanted fucking company, you know?
I hear you.
Then I went to house shopping and then I was like, okay, I'm going to downsize. And I had an offer on this one house on Mulholland and I was like, oh, this is perfect. I just want a bachelorette pad. I just don't want a huge house anymore. I have, I go skiing in the winter in Whistler. I love that. I spend half my time, I'm always out and about. It does just let's downsize.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as that deal was supposed to close, I was like, this is too small.
Oh, really?
I'm like, oh, this is claustrophobic. Nobody will be able to stay here. I'm like, oh, wait, this is exactly the opposite of what you were saying.
Right.
So then I ended up buying a house in Brentwood, which is basically the same size as the house I moved out of, but it's in a much different neighborhood and it's a different style and it's a little bit more intimate. And I've converted every single guest room into something that is not a guest room. I have one room that is a guest room and I'm putting 2 queen size bunk beds in that guest room. So anyone who wants to sleep over it needs to sleep together.
Right. Got it.
And I took one bedroom and blew it out and turned it into a 2-story library. I took another bedroom, blew it out and turned it into a podcast room. And I took the other bedroom and turned it into a closet.
I love the plan. I think it's perfect. When you were horny in COVID, what was the horny piece like? I know.
Well, the horny piece was, first of all, I had my nephew living there who was claiming he was horny. And I did not give a shit about his horniness because he's 24 years old. And I'm like, really? I think you can handle a pandemic. Right. He's like, I'm so stressed out. I'm like, about what? What are you stressed out about living in my mansion? What is stressful to you right now? Because I'm stressed because you guys are here. Right. And, then they left and I was so excited and I just was like, let's get the party started. Because I had those at-home COVID health tests that you could buy. Yep. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like I could potentially test any potential penetrators that came over to my house. I would just be on Raya and I would have different guys come over and I would stagger their call times from I'd have someone come in at 8, someone come at 9:30 because I knew they wouldn't all be home runs. Right. And then I would just interview them. And it took I would do a nasal swab. I'd put it in the cartridge in my kitchen, run the test. It took 30 minutes for the test to come out. Right. And during that time, if they said anything that annoyed me, or I saw a pinky ring, I would say, you have COVID.
Really? I like that. So you took care of business.
Yeah,
How many times a week did that happen?
Well, actually, there were a lot of real disappointing men that came over and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what is going on with straight guys? They were just becoming so, they would say the wrong thing or, one guy would say he wears masks all the time, but he didn't think that they worked. And I'm just like, oh, shut up. Who gives a shit what you think? You're not a doctor or a scientist or a nurse. Right. And so it wasn't as successful as it should have been because I was ready to rumble. Right. But then I went to Whistler. Okay. I bought a little house up in Whistler, ski chalet. I'm a big skier. I love to ski.
I love that. So, you skied nude.
Yeah, I do that every year on my birthday to celebrate my independence.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Do you video it so you can see yourself over the years?
Oh yeah. They're always on my Instagram. Every year I do it on my birthday. I have a margarita in one hand and a joint in the other. And I ski down topless with my little Canadian and American flag over my nipples. To represent my 2 favorite countries.
You're my idol.
Oh,
you are. Okay, so you go to Whistler and you're.
So I go to Whistler. I was like, how do I get into Canada? Because Canada was fucking shut. They were like, get away from us, Americans. So Kevin Hart was shooting a movie up there, and then I was watching Kevin Hart's Instagram, and he's literally in LA one day, and then in Canada the next day. And I was like, excuse me, there's a 2-week quarantine that everybody has to fulfill. What are you doing, Kevin Hart? Yeah. So I called him and I was like, hey, I need you to get me a work permit for you're on a movie, get me hooked up. I need to get into Canada. I just bought a house on FaceTime and I need to go there to ski.
Did you really?
Yeah, I bought a house on FaceTime because I was desperate. Right. Then I thought, also the election was coming up and I was like, oh my God, if he gets elected, I do need a place in Canada. Right. So I was treating it like an episode of The Handmaid's Tale, basically. And Kevin said, sure, no problem. I'll hit you back in 24 hours. He was useless. Oh. He did not come up with anything. And I want to be on the record when I say that Kevin Hart is useless. He cannot help you with a visa or getting into any other country. So I finally get I get a work permit. Okay. My agent finds me a theater in Vancouver, the Vogue Theater. Okay. A decent sized theater. And he's like, I can get you a residency there for 3 months. You just have to perform on Saturday nights. I'm like, great. That'll get me into Canada. Right. So I bring my dogs, I charter a private plane, Hopefully this is only industry listening to this podcast so that nobody thinks I'm unrelatable. Anyway, I'm an environmentalist. So I charter a plane and I bring my 2 dogs and I just bring as much cannabis as possible. Okay. Because I'm going for, I don't know how long I was going to be there. I didn't know if I was going to be there 2 months, 6 months. But what I did know is I had to quarantine for 2 weeks when you get to Canada.
Okay.
You can't go back and forth. You have to stay. Right?
Somehow Kevin Hart could, but nobody else.
Exactly.
could.
Because
Right.
Kevin obviously
Right.
is,
was
you
blowing
know,
somebody.
Exactly. And that's what he's known for. I get to the airport and the guy comes up to me, this guy, and he's like, oh, I'm really worried. He had this Australian accent. I can't do an Australian accent, but he's like, I'm really worried. They're turning people around at the border. I don't think we should go. You know, I'm not sure. I'm like, what do you mean they're turning people around at the border? Like, I have all my paperwork here. Like,
Yeah.
I've already, you know, and he's like, we've got to get on the phone with customs and la, 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 la. And so I'm like, all right. And then I'm getting nervous. Like I might not be able to go. And all I wanted to do was go and ski because everything was shut everywhere. He gets on the phone with customs. Customs like, hi, Miss Handler, everything checks out. We're ready for you. We'll see you in a couple of hours. I look at the guy and I go, look, everything's fine. They know I'm coming and I've got my paperwork. He's like, I don't know. People say you can go and then you get turned around and I just don't know if we should do it. And I was like, I'm sorry, who are you? Like, are you a customs agent? And he's like, no, I'm the pilot. And I was like, you're the pilot? I go, you don't even have a say in this. Like, I hired a plane and a pilot, and your co-pilot, who was on the plane, who was a gay man, who totally fucking had my vibe, right? I looked at him, and he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. You have to deal with this guy.
Right.
So we get on the plane. We have my dogs. And I go, listen, this isn't up to you. I hired you. If we go and we get turned around, that's on me. Like, that's not, you're not going to have to deal with anything. Then you're just flying back anyway, and you're going to have to fly back anyway. And he was really resistant. And finally I was like, listen to me. You are flying me to Vancouver now. And you need to put your foot on the gas and take the fucking plane up. So we get up in the air and we literally are like 20,000 feet in the air. And he gets a call and he's like, they're telling me that I have to ground the plane, That's it. We didn't get cleared for takeoff. I get up out of the seat and I walk over to him and I said, if you turn this plane around, I'm going to lose my shit. I was like, you need to fly me to Vancouver. No fucking around. And then we went to Vancouver. And guess what? Customs walked on board and said, welcome to Canada, Miss Handler.
Come on.
Yeah. And they said, are your dogs, have your dogs been here before? Or when was the last time your dogs were in Canada? And I was like, they came last Christmas alone on a trip for themselves because I did not have their paperwork in order. So, but it all worked out.
Did you really say that?
Yeah, I did. And then he started laughing and he's like, okay, come on in.
Do you feel like being someone who is so direct and opinionated and vocal and dynamic and just with the whole cancel culture, do you get nervous about it? Do you feel like, well, fuck, I'm going to say something that's going to...
No, I don't, because I'm not stupid and I am not a racist or a sexist. You know what I mean? Like, the cancel culture, yes, obviously it's gotten carried away because now people are being held accountable for things they said like 27 years ago. And that's not really appropriate either. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there's like an overcorrection, and I feel like that's a pattern with things. There's always an overcorrection. We had Time's Up, then we had cancel culture. And, and like, look at the reverberation of Me Too. Like, they overturned Roe v. Wade. Like, that is related, in my opinion. If you have women speaking up loudly and proudly, and then we're like, no, shut the fuck up. Mm-hmm. We're actually going to take your rights away. Like, it's not a coincidence that these political movements happen in kind of sequential order. Mm-hmm. So as far as cancel culture goes, though, like, I really think when people are guilty of something, they should have a sincere game plan to address the situation and apologize in a sincere way. Instead of being this defensive person and saying, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't do it. I mean, come on. It's like, that's not the answer. The answer is to be accountable and to say, I fucked up. Right. I'm so sorry. I fucked up. And this is what I'm going to do to make sure that I learn and know better so that I don't ever behave this way. So this kind of like male resistance and this male like attitude, like you can't say anything anymore. It's like, you can. Yeah. You can say anything. You just can't rape because we're going to tell on you. Right. And you can't be sexist and not be racist. That's not a tall order. Right. And that's the way it should be. Like, instead of like, it's not hard to go through the world or even stand up with some parameters. I like a little guardrails because I will go off the rails if you don't give me some parameters. I feel like the conversation has been had and we should now move on to the next phase.
Right.
You know?
What would that next phase be?
Well, I mean, I think, instead of just canceling somebody completely, it's more of a conversation. It's like giving somebody the room to make good, giving somebody the opportunity to come and say, I'm sorry. And they're not gone forever. I think that women are just so mad and so pissed off, and they have every right to be. I mean, I'm also mad and pissed off on behalf of women. So I just think there's a toggle right now going on, and it feels like we're at the tail end of cancel culture, hopefully, and so that people can have room to grow and room to make mistakes, not sexual assault mistakes, but language mistakes and confusing things. And there has to be a little bit more latitude.
What are the things that keep you up at night or waking you up in the morning saying, okay?
I mean, yeah, of course, personal things and, like worldly things, I think. It really depends. I mean, look what's happening in Iran, and look what the government's doing to those women. I can't even believe how brave these women are. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I would be that brave. I mean, I would have to be, because I would have to stand for something, but I wouldn't be psyched about it. Yeah. And I'm sure they're not. Yeah. But I mean, that rock climber that went, competed the other day and then flew back to Iran to basically be tortured.
Right.
While her brother was arrested. I can't believe that government is also not seeing the writing on the wall, that they're just killing them and shooting them and torturing these women and innocent men and, even children. And I just watch these videos and I just can't believe these little girls in schools taking off their hijabs and just, storming these men, throwing shit at them, taking the control back. And when these people have weapons, it's just unfathomable. So that stuff keeps me up at night. And climate change is, is the big thing. Me too. Whenever I see anyone pregnant, I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah. This world is about to implode. Right. Yeah. That's my cynicism. Yeah. And I believe, the way it's been accelerating and the floods all throughout the world that are happening right now. And I don't know, are we too late to get around it? It feels like it.
It feels like it. And are you afraid of dying?
I don't think so. No. I mean, no, that would be a nice break.
Right.
A nice long sleep. I'm definitely into sleeping. I just hope it's not something.
Oh my God, your TikTok about sleeping and kids. You're like, I don't know why I'm still in bed and why
because I like to do mushrooms at 11 a.m. with my landscaper. That's why I don't have children. Because who's not doing that? People with children.
So the vaccinated and horny tour. For some reason, my New York accent, horny tour, it doesn't come out right. So when are you shooting it, or did you shoot it?
I shot my special. It's airing on Netflix December 27th.
Oh my God.
2 days after Christmas. So it's my best special for sure yet. I'm really excited about it, for it to come out, for people to see it. Okay. Because I'm now back in the groove of doing stand-up. I had taken a 6-year hiatus from stand-up because I just didn't feel like I had anything to contribute. I didn't feel like I had anything to say. And now I'm like, I have something to say, So I came back with a vengeance. I did my last special at HBO Max, which was called Evolution. And that was based on my last book, Life Will Be the Death of Me, which is about going to therapy after Trump was elected, being so angry and being filled with such vitriol, about the whole process and Trump supporters and the whole Trump family. The fact that I was going to have to look at Ivanka's and Eric's veneers for the next 4 years pissed me off. Then, I went to therapy. I did really deep work with this guy, Dan Siegel. I had never been to therapy before. I really found out about all my anger and all my kind of movement throughout my life, and how I was never able to be still, and I was never able to sit and reflect, and I was never able to meditate or be alone. I always had people everywhere. And I realized I was so upset about my brother dying when I was 9. I'd never dealt with that. I just kind of put it away and shoved it down, I became invulnerable, I wasn't going to let any man hurt me again. Mm-hmm. My father, after my brother died, he may as well have died too, because he was he was never the same. Sure. And so it was 2 of my attachment figures just basically kind of ditching me. And in a 9-year-old's brain, that's like a breakup, an abandonment. Yep. Even though there was an accident, you don't have that, nuance or maturation to digest it. And my parents certainly didn't send any of us to therapy. So it took me a long time to even understand that was my issue, and that I was so because I was so protective of myself, because I had to be at a very young age to not be hurt by anybody. So I wrote a book about that, my last book. And then I turned it into, because I was like, oh, maybe I can, if this can be in the medium of stand-up, if I could make this funny. So that was important for me to do. So I did that. And then I was like, I like stand up again. And then I started, I did another tour and this is it, Revolution. And I think I'll keep doing it now.
I have to say that we are lucky in this world to have your voice and your power. Because this is a time where people like yourself make such a huge difference. Your voice is really important. And that is such a blessing. So I'm very thankful for you, Chelsea Handler. There's just nothing better than getting completely lost in a conversation. And talking to Chelsea just does that for me. And I hope you feel the same way. So before we say goodbye, there is one more question that I just needed to know. What's your favorite position?
For sex?
Yes.
I think missionary.
Really? Eye to eye, like romantic?
Not eye to eye, no, but like kissing and like,
right.
Yeah, that's my favorite position.
Right?
Yeah, I like a guy on top of me, face to face.
Right. Do you like a big guy? Like a
bigger than me,
yeah.
Ideally. I mean, I would like their thighs to be bigger than mine, but I've also been known to like depart that. I mean, I've had men with lesser thighs than I do, and that's not great. But as you get older, you realize that everybody comes in all different shapes and sizes. And I'm kind of pleased with my openness sexually and dating wise. Like if you look at my track record, it's all over the shop.
Yeah.
So I love that because that's who I am. Like I don't have a type and I don't think I ever have.
No.
I just like when somebody makes me interested and is compelling,
That I can completely connect with.
And confidence. Confidence is really like attractive. And especially when you're someone like me who has the ability to kind of turn men off, or men will be like, oh, she's too loud or she's too brash. Like it's really intoxicating to be around a man who appreciates those qualities and understands that I don't have the ability to be something that I'm not, and I don't have the desire either.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm embracing myself.
What a joy to have you here, and what a fucking pleasure to have you on the earth.
And I
think everyone who's at the table today, I hope you really enjoyed this because Chelsea Handler, you are a powerhouse, beautiful, incredible person, and I love you. I'm very happy you came today. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. You're so cute.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers to not getting shit-faced at lunch.
Table for Two with Bruce Bozzi is produced by iHeartRadio, 737 Park, and Airmail. Our executive producers are Bruce Bozzi, Jonathan Haas-Dressler, and Nathan King. Table for Two is edited and written by Tina Mullen and researched and written by Bridget Arsenault. Our sound engineers are Emil B. Klein, Paul Bowman, and Alyssa Midgaff. Table for Two's LA production team is Danielle Romo and Lorraine Virez. Our music supervisor is Randall Poster. Our talent booking is by Jane Sarkin. Special thanks to Amy Sugarman, Uni Scher, Kevin Uvain, Bobby Bauer, Allison Cantor-Graber, Barbara and Jen, and Jeff Klein, and the staff at the Tower Bar in the world-famous Sunset Tower Hotel. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.